Hello, YouTube. Welcome to my channel, Marriage, Politics, and Sports. Today, I'll be talking about how female promiscuity has shaped today's sexual marketplace. First, please like this video, share this video with others. Be sure to make some comments and I'll reply to you. And of course, subscribe to my channel. Some women will push back because, they refuse to take full accountability for their wombs, especially when it comes to sexual activity. Yeah, we know it takes two to tango. Many ignore the fact that they must give final consent until unless faced, with criminal trespass from a man. So they have to give consent. Sometimes they even have to say yes out loud, right? Matter of fact, the way the laws go, that women uh, can actually charge a man for trying to talk her into giving him some sex. For example, if you go by the song Killing Me Softly with His Word, if a man had that silver tongue and he was reading her whole life with his word, she could actually, in some states, bring him up on charges because she became helpless to stop him from having sex with her because he talked her into it, right? We're talking about grown women. We're not talking about children. I think it's absurd. But that goes to my point that they're trying to put so many things in place to save women from themselves because women actually control that marketplace, right? So it's just true. So now men may push back at this because of my machismo, swagger. Men is have this incessant need to absolve women of their agency of their womb, right? She's giving me love and sex because I'm so dapper she can't resist. The truth of the matter is, a woman pretty much uh, knows she wants to sleep with you as soon as she sees you, right? She knows she wants to sleep with you, and she's just waiting for you to say something stupid to talk her out of it, right? That's more likely. So listen, I did though. However, with all of that, I did conduct a very unscientific poll of a bunch of men that I know, and I posed a simple question to them: who do you think controls the sexual marketplace? Now it's funny. I didn't get a lot of quick answers. Men actually hesitated a moment before they replied. Almost to a man, they hesitated. They said, you know what? Women do. Because we say in these spaces, women control access to sex. So we got to kind of dig a little deeper and see what does that really mean. So as far as I'm concerned, if they control access, that means they can control the marketplace. That's how I look at it. Then, I asked, you know, when it comes to sex, so many men are quick to absolve the women of their agency, accountability, and responsibility. Like I said before, with answers like, well, it takes two to tango. And it is true. But, it doesn't matter in questions of ultimate responsibility, right? When it comes to sex, women are the ultimate gatekeepers of their own sex, their own womb, right? This is recognized by law, by actual physical law. At the local level, at the state level, at the federal level, it's recognized that women have ultimate control to the access to their bodies, which it sounds reasonable to me, right? Sounds true to me, right? So no sexual activity can take place without a woman's consent. In fact, even if a woman feels remorse afterwards, after consensual liaison, she could make a phone call to the police and your life could be ruined as a man, right? Because, they'll believe her first before you have to exonerate yourself. But by then, you could lose a job, you could lose, friends, you could lose, stature, you could lose all kinds of stuff, businesses, just based on an accusation of a night of consensual sex with a woman who feels remorse the next day. So, men, you got to be careful, right? So, this really should end the delusion of control, for men when we talk about the sexual marketplace. Women control that. We're just players. So men are players in the marketplace, and our influence. fluctuates almost purely on the demand side, right? And we're talking about heterosexual men, straight stuff, none of that kinky, crazy stuff. It's we really uh, dominate the demand side, right? That's what we do, right? We don't supply the sex; we demand it from women, and demand meaning in terms of supply and demand. So here's why: because a man's desire for sex is a constant. It's a constant. It's been that way since the dawn of time, right? The dawn of man, right? It's always been constant. It's tied to our biological imperative, to mate. Or in non-secular terms, it's tied for our need to be fruitful and multiply. It doesn't matter, right, if you're a select, a desired cockhound type of guy, a regular good guy or a bad guy, or straight Pookie or Ray Ray. It doesn't matter whether you're looking for simply to smash or if you want a relationship leading to marriage. Our sexual desire for a woman is constant, right? So if this were, if this was like, but here's the rub. This is why some women conflate sexual attention to relationship attention. You'll see a woman say, "Oh, I got men all over me. Everybody wants me." But they group all the men together, right? Because actually the men they want is not that abundant, right? But they know there's a lot of men who want to smash them, especially if they look good. But so they try to take credit for that when there's really no credit due, right? Because men will pretty much smash anything. So, and if you look good, you'll have more suitors, but there's no great feat for a lady to get laid, not if she wants to. Uh, so anyway, if this was a mathematical equation, getting back to men's need to be constant, I looked at, for example, it's going to get a little technical, right? But I'm looking at comparing the the theory of relativity equation to the sexual energy equation, right? E equals mc squared, where c is the speed of light, which is a universal constant, and m is a mass, and E is energy, right? So in order for the energy to change, only thing that changes is the amount of mass that's available. So when we look at the sexual marketplace, I have sexual energy, the sexual marketplace energy is equal to female promiscuity times male demand for sexual activity. And like I said before, the male demand is pretty much of a constant. So the sexual energy in the sexual marketplace is solely dependent on the promiscuity of the women in that particular marketplace. And what do I mean by that, right? So if I was to talk about, uh, women in the Middle East, a Muslim in the Eastern Bloc or in the Middle East, or whether they were Jewish or whatever it is, that changes the sexual marketplace only because of culture, religion, and other kind of things. So, in a sexual market that is in the West, it's really chaotic and it's out of control because the women are very promiscuous, right? In the East, where there's still cultural mores, some laws, and traditions and religions, the sexual marketplace is a little bit more chaste. It's easier for a man to find a woman who still has virtue, right? Uh, they have their 304s too, but it's a whole lot, but they're a lot more secretive. But in the West, if you talk to a bunch of men who are in the dating market, and a whole lot of them are quitting, right? Because they can't find the kind of woman that they want to cleave to because women have been, you know, pretty much, a lot of women have been pretty much ran through in their hot girl summer. And by the time they want to settle down with a man, men don't want those kind of women, right? So that's why you got the passport bros. That's why you got men going their own way. That's why you got men trying to just clock out. And just men who just rather just go into a room, put on their favorite TV channel with a porn station with their lotion and just have at it. So, but it's those changes in the marketplace are dependent on how women think, right? So here's what I'm thinking. I think there were three main factors that made the Western marketplace saturated with sex everywhere, especially for select men. And here's what. One, I think in June of 1960, the pill was released, the birth control pill, right? The feminists, and everybody else. Uh, then it was feminism, right? Third wave feminism that said a woman's empowerment was not only getting a job, not only, but being sexually promiscuous, sexually free, right? That's a big plank in the feminist movement. White women put a battery in black women's back, and they ran with that, and they still talk about that, sexual freedom today. Now, today, that's why so many places on YouTube we talk about body count. Now, I'm not one to ask a woman about her body count, but women keep saying, well, it shouldn't matter, but it's really not up to you, because the one thing men control is access to marriage. Whether you say yes or no is immaterial. So if a man wants a woman who has some virtue left, so he knows that she could pair bond with him, and I'll put a video on about this a little later, then that's what he wants. So if you got a body count of 100 and something like that, he don't have to know that. Let me tell you, he doesn't have to know the number. He could probably tell by the way you move around him, around other men, and the way you act, things that the trauma that you have of all that energy you sucked in from all of those Johnsons. Any man who's worth his grain of salt, who's vetting you properly, will see that in you. And no, if he wants a wife, that whole notion you can't turn a hoe into a housewife. Some men take that seriously because men in the West, we stopped thinking about virgins a long time ago. So all we can think now is, can we have a woman that at least have some virtue left, who can pair bond to me as her husband, who could be respectful, who could be loyal, and who can, be exclusive with one man. And if you can't do that, then next. So there's those three things: the pill, feminism, and of course Roe v. Wade, which allowed women to begin to use baby deletion as a extreme form of birth control. And in the Black community, since 1973, 22 million lives have been killed, deleted, because of Roe v. Wade. Now, population hasn't grown from 13% ever since then. So I got a couple of clips I want to show you. Now, the first one is about Jordan Peterson talking about a little bit about the pill. The second clip I'm going to show you is going to be another one about basically a white woman talking about how feminism, how the Gen Z women are moving away from promiscuity. And I don't agree with all her reasons because, of course, women can't take it, it's hard for them to take accountability. She's blaming the promiscuity on pornography, and I think she's full of shit. However, the real main purpose is that the ladies are moving away because of the negative impact so many Johnsons have had on them, right? Trauma, drama, you know, babies, diseases, all that kind of stuff. So that's a short video. And the last video is a young lady who understands the chemical relationship to sex for a man and a woman. So these are short clips, and I'm gonna play them in succession, and we'll come back. Okay.
Underestimate the unbelievable technological triumph of birth control. It's the hydrogen bomb, the transistor. It's a major league transformation in human interaction. Women are now free from involuntary reproduction. That's never been the case in the entire history of the planet. We don't know exactly what to do about that. Okay, so the first idea in the 60s was, hell, let's party. And you can see why. It's like what the rules for not engaging in promiscuous sexual intercourse seemed to have vanished. So we had a couple of decades of experimentation. Well, how'd that go? Little hard on the family. That's not so good for kids. That wasn't a plus. Could have killed us all. And it mutated, particularly to take advantage of promiscuous sex, because viruses are a very tricky thing. Turns out that sex is a little bit more complicated than we thought. Well, it actually turns out that it's a lot more complicated than we think. Okay, and now it's 50, 60 years later, and we're trying to sort this out. It's like, well, when is it okay to have sex? And when is it not okay to? And what does it mean that it's okay? And what does consent mean? And the answer to that is, well, we never used to have to think these things through, because the rule was don't have sex until you get married. That was the rule.
Yeah, so let's just leave it there for that one. And of course, he was right. So then, it breaks up again. And, so let me just kind of talk a little bit about what he was talking about. So you saw what he was saying about the pill and the fact that even though since it was out since the 60s, we're still dealing with the ramifications of what the pill meant and how it impacted people. And so in the next clip, we're going to see, a little bit more, but it's going to be from the impacts from the feminist side, right? With the feminists was saying about, so we're going to stop sharing here. We're going to share another video for you. All right. All right. Okay. Here it is. All right.
Need to reevaluation of sex positivity. This week, she slammed the ACLU for modifying a Ruth Bader Ginsburg quote to neutralize references to women. But casual sex and gender neutrality are pillars of the contemporary feminist pitch. Goldberg, one of the most prominent feminist writers in media, is effectively rebuking both of them. She isn't alone either. In July, BuzzFeed published a deep dive headlined, "These Gen Z women think sex positivity is overrated," reporting that, quote, uneasiness with sex positivity is bubbling to the surface, especially in some Gen Z quarters. Quote, we all really embraced third wave feminism and sex positivity, and it impacted us so negatively, a 23-year-old rape survivor told the outlet. Being told that you should be having sex with people you don't have any relationship with really put in our minds that sex doesn't matter. I feel like we all just kind of got effed over. Now, in a column that referenced the BuzzFeed story, Goldberg observed, quote, sex positivity now seems to be fading from fashion among younger people, failing to speak to their longings and frustrations. Goldberg said, I started noticing the turn away from sex positivity a few years ago when I wrote about a revival of interest in Andrea Dworkin's work. Since then, there have been growing signs of young women rebelling against a culture that prizes erotic license over empathy and responsibility. Here's the best part. Somehow, she concludes, as sex positivity went mainstream and infused with a culture shaped by pornography, attention to emotion got lost.
Now, that last part is bullshit. Pornography has nothing to do on the female side of being promiscuous. They're trying to shift the blame from women's responsibility for rejecting the feminist trope of free love and trying to blame it on the fact that that happened was promiscuity as opposed to just feminine, just wanting to stroke. So I think that was, a little bit of cap on this lady's part, not just the reviewer here, but she goes on in this video to say that she kind of agrees with that. And, so again, they just shifting the blame. Women are responsible for the promiscuity. And, and this is just another example. So I have one more video I want to show you. And that last clip is more of a cautionary tale from a woman who's really telling women that it's important that you be kind of reserved in who you sleep with because of the chemicals that are exchanged, oxytocin, when exchanged during the act. Okay, so we're going to shift and we're going to share that. Okay, we're going to share that last one. And Here goes.
Men don't fall in love through sex. They fall in love through the promises that they make and then keep to you. Now, I'm about to give you a whole science lesson because you guys are out here getting it wrong and you're hurting yourself because of it. Now, women do fall in love through sex. That's why whenever you hear someone like, oh, no, it's going to be casual, I don't actually like him, like I'm going to be a player too. Biochemically, that's really hard because we release oxytocin. Oxytocin is your bonding chemical.
You can't be a player the same way a man can be a player. I have to pause and explain this because this is the stuff that they don't want to hear. Being a 3 or 4 out here means that you're constantly falling in love with men who are taking you to Pound Town. Let's keep listening.
It's why you feel close after sex. It's why you feel close during cuddling. That's when we firing off that oxytocin like crazy when we're in love. It's why he was kind of okay at first, and now you're like, he's literally a shit, and I am so in love. Men release some levels of oxytocin after sex, but it's actually not what bonds them to someone. What bonds them to you, that commitment level, is vasopressin. So what happens in the beginning, though, they are releasing testosterone. Testosterone is their pursue behavior. That's why, girlfriend, do whatever you want. But if you're wanting a guy to commit to you, sleeping with him in the beginning isn't the smartest thing to do, because guess what? His levels of testosterone are the highest when pursuing. You get what you want. They just drop, which means right after sex, if it's in the beginning, he actually likes you less unless vasopressin is released. But men have to develop vasopressin receptors for that to happen, and those take time to build.
So the vasopressin is the chemical that allows men to grow attached to a woman.
Testosterone does not create commitment. To them, it peaks, dips. Okay, now they have to go find that thing that peaks their testosterone again. They already got the conquest over there. Say men fall in love through the commitments they make and keep, because this is more of a sign of a vasopressin release. The other sign of vasopressin release is mate guarding behavior. That is very much, these are my resources, you cannot have them because I care about them. This chemical takes time to develop, but it's also the reason if you keep sleeping with someone who treats you like shit, who keeps breaking their promises to you, who breaks their commitments to you, who does not seem to care to commit to you, the vasopressin is not going to be meant for you. You cannot sleep your way with a guy into making him care. That's not how it works. And it's going to work the reverse for you if you're a woman, because you are going to be releasing all this oxytocin and you're going to be the one going through that heartbreak. That shit's going to suck.
All right, so there we go.
There you go. So let me stop it there. I'm going to stop it there. I'm going to stop sharing. But you heard it for yourself. So these are 3 things. They might seem to be unrelated. One is talking about the pill. The other one is talking about, the feminists, who put that battery in all women's back, that just having free love and sex is the way to go. And that doesn't seem to be working out for women at all, especially today, right? And now this lady tells you the chemical reason why you can't sleep around. And she didn't say this part. She just said that, about kind of giving you an impression if you're sleeping with the wrong guy and you're releasing this oxytocin for that guy. But what if you're sleeping with 100 guys? Or you got a rotation of 10 dudes? What are you doing to dissipate all that energy, ladies? Nothing. You're not, all that energy gets stored in you, and it manifests itself in trauma, depression pills, bad behavior, chaotic behavior, an inability to recognize a good guy when you see him. All of these kind of things kind of stick with you if you have too many men. And hey, listen, so for some of you it's too late. But so we're gonna stop sharing that. We're gonna go to this and just kind of finish off a little bit. Listen, the main point here is that, women of the West are significant, do significantly impact the sexual marketplace. It's different here than almost anywhere else in the world. Men benefit from the promiscuity. So what I'm saying is not like a consent, but it's not good for women. It's great for men, especially if you're a select man. You get to smash as many women as you want, all up and down the spectrum from 5 to 10s, But, however, it hurts both men and women in the end, right? because women who sleep around or have trouble bonding with the guy that she actually wants, and men, no matter how much they sleep with random chicks, and just want to smash, the guys who want to settle down and have their own woman still hold women accountable for the bodies that they have. It might not seem fair, but it's true. I don't need to tell you ladies that. That's why men keep asking about body count. And of course, it's a stupid question because they'll never get the answer. But the discerning men, like myself, when I was finding my wife, I didn't ask her that question. I just had I observed her around my friends. I observed her around her friends. I observed how much she clung to me and how much, and she's still here. We've been married for a long time, right? So I know she has this connection to me, and I have to her. And some men who are observe, know how to use powers of observation, because at some point you will reveal who you really are, just like men at some point is going to reveal who he really is, and that's when it'll come out. That's when it'll come out. And so if you had your hot girl summer and you lined up a whole bunch of bodies, and now you're 30, you might have a kid or two by two different men or three different men or whatever the hell it is. Your pickings are going to be slim, and you could sit down here and deny and argue and all that kind of stuff, because the man you want, and especially if he's single and childless, is not going to be that excited about taking on that kind of baggage. So listen, I just wanted to show you that this power you have in the sexual marketplace could be used for good, or it could be used for chaotic nature, right? And it's really up to women to start, and to the sister code to start to rein that shit in. And there's people starting to talk about it. There's people starting to call women out on the promiscuity and the ratchetness of the music, and just the behavior, right? Because men, we're not the leaders in that particular marketplace. We have our own problems. Some men have to have discipline. They got to stop making kids out of wedlock, and some men are starting to do that. They're starting to turn down just random sex, especially the men who are select, who have a future in front of them. So that's why the pickings are getting slimmer and slimmer, because men are starting to say, well, you know what? I'll pass. I'll pass. So listen, that's enough of my words. Our pain over and out. Mhm.